Hello everybody, welcome to my very last video for my Lua scripting series. These were all the basics, but this one is probably, in my opinion, is very important for you to learn. It's how you can make your game. If you can't understand local sided and server sided and when to use them, how to use, then you'll have very big trouble coming your way. So remote events per se, I made a video about it in my shop before, but I'll make it again. So this is the game. It's the game you're playing right now. Like, you play again on Roblox, you can see everything. This is the game. The workspace, everything is in this spot. This side is the server. This is the client. Let's make it blue. Alright. What remote events are, it's like a gate key. So if I wanted to do, if I click a button, if I click a part in workspace, and I wanted to turn on a GUI, it is a very bad thing if you turn it on from a server script. No, you would fire a remote event. So let's say if I press a button inside the game, so pretend this button was in the game, I press it, I want to fire to the client, then turn on the GUI, not turn it on from here, because there's like a certain barrier. Hold on, pretend this a barrier. These things are like barriers that keeps those two separated. So remote events, the best way to explain them is client to server, server to client. Never, you can't fire from server to server or from client to client. So an example of this is if you want something to appear in the game but you want to do it local sided, you'd fire, like if you want to make a fireball and press a keybind, you do it local sided because you're the one pressing the key. But I want everybody else to see the fireball, not just yourself. Then you'd fire to the server, then do all the lines of codes that makes it appear, not in the local, because local sided nobody can see the change. Server sided everybody can see the change. So let's say I make let's make a button right here. Alright, so let's say I wanted to press this button and a part would spawn. So script.parent mouse button one click connect function. Here's the start. I want to press the button, but I want the part that spawns, I want everybody to see it. Everybody, not just yourself. So you can't do it local side. You can't do local instance.new, part the parent equals workspace. No, you think it'd work, but it won't, because you're doing that. You're making the part spawn in a client. Pretend you're like a hacker. If you did everything from the client, nobody else will see the change except you. So what you do is get a remote event. Let's say it's like the translator. Pretend a server script is like French and local script is English. Like, they both won't understand each other. They only speak that language. The remote event is a translator. So if I click the button, I'd fire a remote event. There you go. I'd fire to the server, call it. It's my last video. I'll get on server to remote event. Like that. There's on server event and there's on client event. Call it. You can also do player, by the way. Alright. So call it, space that. Then do the local part equals instance.new. I don't know. Let's just do part or pants. What? Part and bam. Part.parent equals workspace. Alright. So if I was to play the game, every time I press the button, it should spawn a part. There you go. See right there? It's gonna keep spawning. See, there we go. If I didn't do a remote event and just did the local part equals instance.new in a local sided, I would still see the same thing. But player 2, player 3, and player 4 won't see it. Like, you're going crazy. Like, they'll say, "Oh wow, how are you floating?" Because this change is invisible to them, unless if you do it in a server sided, which means everybody can see it. Everybody can see that change. Alright, so that's typically a basic overview of remote events. So now if I did vice versa, so if I did game that players added, the player added connect function. Let's say I wanted to, when the player joins the game, I want a UI to turn on from the client. So just keep this is the basic rule that I learned. If you want to change something from, okay, starter UI, it's a local thing. Local, it has to be local scripts. All local scripts. Never have a server script inside starter UI, and never have a local script in workspace or server script service, like that. So if I want something to, if I was, this is a rule. If I want something to change in a starter GUI, like I want to make a UI visible, and think to yourself, and you're doing that in a server script, you have to fire an event. If I want to change something in the server side, workspace, server script, mostly workspace, and you're doing that script in a local script inside starter GUI, you need to do a remote event. Never try to change something outside of the starter GUI category, like that relates to having a change that you want everybody else to see that change. Everybody wants to see it. If you want everybody to see the change, if you want everybody to see the bullets, you want everybody to see the gun in your hand, you want everybody to see the sword in your hand. I mean, a tool. There's a few exceptions, of course. But if you want to make like equip a tool with a button, you do that. You'd fire an event. So you click it, fire an event to the server script, then equip the tool to the player's character from the backpack, because you want everybody else to see the change. That's a basic overview of remote events. So if I was to, well, let's just do game the replica to storage, that remote event, fire client player. Fire client is firing to a specific player. Fire all clients. You didn't need to put player. It just automatically fires an event to every single player. So that means every player, if I was to call it, I'd call every player would call that event. So you can just check like in here. So imagine if I was doing fire all clients instead of fire client. I'd check hold on, let's say I'd do like local VIP equals, Pokecedgo, and once you do that, you'd put like VIP here. I don't know, VIP equals Pokecedgo. Then you call it here in the client. Let's call it a VIP. If game.player is a local player.name, what equals VIP, then person is VIP. So this would check every single player, fire all clients, check every single player until, you can check if there's a certain player's name. But if you just do this, really, fire client, which you need to put the player, by the way. You can also do the same thing. You can also, after the player, you can fire any data you want. So string, number, anything you want. This fires to a certain client. So I was to call it here, I can do simply script.parent.visible equals false. So if I join the game, the text button would be visible equal false, so it's gone. Okay, so this is a server to client change. So when I join the game, this thing would disappear. I'd fire an event to the client, and the UI would disappear. I guess it's a bit understanding. So remember, just the game, server, client. I want something to change from the client, from the server, fire an event. I want to change something from the server, from the client, fire an event. So if you're making a weapon, if you're making anything really, like, because I'm pretty sure every single game you make, whatever it is, you will need to use remote events. Like if you're making I don't know, like a fireball, again, like a fireball, it's a good example. Like if you're making everything from a local script, key, like the second you press a key, the key bind, then local instant new frame particle fire, all in the local script, only you will see that change. You need to make the keybind, fire this to the server, then call it from the server, then start doing all the fireball and all that stuff, because you want everybody else to see that change. That's the best way I can explain it. So yeah, server to client, client to server, never server to server, never client. Remember, translator, French, English, this two can understand each other, so you have to go to the translator. It'll interpret it. It'll interpret the change, so the server French can understand what the client English said, and it will do it for them. In other words, if I did everything to client, client, so the English, everything from client to client, the server won't see that change. Nobody else will see the change. If I did a change in the server, however, everybody else will see that change. But if I was to affect the client from the server, then that's a no-no. So yeah, that's the best way to explain it, I guess, for me. If you have any questions, just comment down below, and make sure you go check my other remote event video. And this is the end of my, I guess, basic Lua. I'll get back to making the models and all that stuff. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, comment, and I'll see you guys all next time. Peace out.